America is disgusted with Washington's failure to address the debt and are blaming both Republicans and Democrats. So if it is a referendum on spending cuts or higher taxes, who will have the upper hand? Let's ask Republican Congressman Michael Burgess of Texas and Democratic Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez of California. To the ladies first, Congresswoman Sanchez, what do you think? Who has the upper hand now?
Well, David, I think both parties need to get back to the table again. Just because the super committee couldn't get its job done by tomorrow doesn't mean that there won't be negotiating going on until now and October 1st of this coming year, which is when 2013 and those sequestration cuts go into effect. So, you know, while I'm very disappointed at the people who were at the table and the impasse that was going on, I think there are plenty of people in the Congress who sit in the middle, who want to work together, who are working together on other issues, who are trying to get, if you will, their toe in the door in this issue so that we can begin to solve the problem of our deficits.
Congressman Burgess, I have to admit I never had hope. You know, back in August, we had a debate at Fox News. And Newt Gingrich, during that debate of the Republican contenders, said, this thing is never going to happen. Right before Thanksgiving, Newt said, the whole thing is going to fall apart. Indeed, that's exactly what happened. Now, as our last guest said, it's just up to the voters, isn't it?
Well, yes, but Congressman Sanchez is correct. The final act of this drama is yet to be played out. And in many ways, although you're right, people are disgusted with both sides today, you know, regular order sometimes can be your friend in the United States Congress, and these cuts will go to the committees. The cuts are, I mean, that's baked into the cake. The cuts are going to happen, but how they happen is yet to be written. And perhaps over these next several months, we can make an attempt to get the policy right.
Well, but Congressman, forgive me for interrupting, but the American...
You're right. Election day is just around the corner.
Well, and that's the point, is that getting a deal done in an election year is impossible, is it not?
No,
not
I don't.
necessarily.
I don't. If that were the case, you know, why even bother to show up during an election year? Just go out and campaign. Which
it's a good question.
Is what the president's doing, but still, it is our job, and we are the people's house. This is the work we're supposed to be doing.
Well, actually, a lot of Americans, judging by the polls, would say perhaps it's better if you stayed home. But go ahead, Congressman Sanchez.
David, there are plenty of people in the House of Representatives and on the Senate side. I mean, people were surprised because over this last couple of weeks, as I was talking about what was going on with the super committee, a lot of people were surprised, for example, that I not only was talking to the Democrats on the committee, but also the Republicans on the committee. I think that there's a way that we can still work this through. I believe that there are a good number of good people in the Congress who want to work on this. I know that there are several blue dogs that have been reaching across the aisle, and I'm a member of the blue dogs. Sid talked to some of our counterparts on the Republican side, and I think that we can come to the right decisions, and I think those decisions will be, if we push out, if we do the right thing, if we do the right thing for the American people will reward us in the election.
Congresswoman, even in the administration, they can't make up their mind. And we have a perfect example. You're on the Armed Services Committee. We have Defense Secretary Panetta saying if Congress fails to act, talking about the automatic cuts, the Department of Defense will face devastating automatic across-the-board cuts that will tear a seam in the nation's defense. He clearly doesn't want cuts in defense, but then you have President Obama saying the opposite. I will veto any effort to get rid of those automatic spending cuts to domestic and defense spending. So if the president and his own defense secretary can't speak in the same voice, how can Congress?
David, the president, through his former defense secretary, Secretary Gates, asked Secretary Gates to find over $400 billion worth of cuts starting this fiscal year we're in for the next 10 years. In fact, many of us have been working with Secretary Leon Panetta to get that done. What Secretary Panetta is worried about, it's not just these $465 billion that we're looking for in the next 10 years, but starting in 2013, if we don't come to an accommodation, and that's why it's so important for Republicans and Democrats to come back together and to work this thing through. If we don't do that, it's another $600 billion on top of the $465
but
that President Obama has already asked to cut.
Understood. But Congressman Burgess, you see my point, that they can't get together in the administration, let alone in Congress.
Well, David, the truth is, if you wanted to cut $1.7 trillion and not take anything away from anyone, you wouldn't do the Affordable Care Act. I mean, there is, if you want to save some money, there's an enormous amount of money to be saved, and we could do it tomorrow, and we wouldn't jeopardize anything that's already in place. You know, one of the things that has troubled me throughout all this discussion, the Simpson-Bowles Commission, even the Deficit Commission, no one was ever willing to put any part of the Affordable Care Act on the table. And realistically, if you're not willing to touch that, you haven't been serious the whole time.
Gang, we got to leave it at that. Congressman Burgess, Congresswoman Sanchez, thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it.